Look up at the night sky, really look at it, and tell me what you see. A scattering of stars, perhaps the familiar shape of Orion, the hunter, stretching across the cosmos. But what if those stars are more than just celestial landmarks? What if they're part of an ancient message, a map left behind not to guide us, but to warn us? For decades, researchers have puzzled over strange anomalies in the Orion constellation alignments that don't fit natural patterns, geometric precision that defies coincidence. And now, a chilling theory is gaining traction. What if our ancestors weren't just charting the heavens, but marking the hunting grounds of something far older and far more dangerous? Imagine standing in the shadow of the Great Pyramid thousands of years ago, gazing at the same stars we see tonight. The builders of these monuments didn't just leave us tombs and temples, they encoded their knowledge in stone and sky. Across cultures, from Egypt to Mesopotamia to the Americas, Orion isn't just a constellation, it's a recurring obsession. The pyramids of Giza align with its belt stars with uncanny precision. The Hopi spoke of celestial beings descending from Orion. The Maya tied its movements to their sacred calendar. Coincidence, or could these civilizations, separated by oceans and centuries, have been trying to tell us something we're only now beginning to decipher? This isn't just about ancient astronomy, it's about survival. The Orion Anomaly theory suggests these star maps point to a terrifying possibility, that somewhere in the vast darkness behind Orion's glow, a predatory intelligence lies in wait. Not benevolent visitors, but hunters, and the ancients, who knew far more about the cosmos than we've credited them for, may have left clues to help us recognize the threat before it's too late. Tonight, we're going to follow that trail, from the dusty corners of archaeology to the cutting edge of astrophysics, to uncover whether humanity's oldest fear might also be its most urgent warning. Strap in, the stars have a story to tell, and it's not the one you learned in school. To understand why Orion holds such eerie significance, we have to step outside modern astronomy and into the minds of our ancestors. For them, the stars weren't just distant lights, they were living guides, omens, even deities, and Orion, towering above the celestial equator, dominated their skies with a presence impossible to ignore. The Egyptians didn't just align the pyramids to Orion's belt, they designed the entire Giza plateau as a mirror of the constellation, a terrestrial echo of the heavens. The three pyramids match the belt stars so precisely that even today, the slightest deviation reveals shifts in Earth's axis over millennia. But this wasn't mere stargazing, it was deliberate, sacred geometry. Their texts call Orion Sa, the soul of Osiris, god of the afterlife, reinforcing the idea that these stars weren't just observed, they were worshipped as a bridge between worlds. Across the Atlantic, the Maya saw Orion as the cosmic hearth of creation, the place where fire first sparked life. Their Dresden Codex tracks Orion's movements alongside cycles of catastrophe, as if watching for something hidden in its rhythm. Meanwhile, the Hopi spoke of the Kachina, star beings who descended from Orion to teach humanity before mysteriously withdrawing. These aren't isolated myths. In Mesopotamia, Orion was linked to Gilgamesh's quest for immortality. The Dogon of Mali, with no telescopes, knew of Sirius's invisible companion star, a fact modern astronomy confirmed only centuries later, and tied its orbit to Orion's influence. The pattern is undeniable. Civilization after civilization fixated on these specific stars, encoding them into temples, calendars, and legends with urgent reverence. What's chilling isn't just the consistency, it's the shared symbolism. Orion isn't depicted as a random cluster, but as a doorway, a celestial crossroads. The Greeks imagined it as a hunter frozen in the sky, but earlier cultures saw something far more ominous. The ancient Sanskrit texts describe Orion's belt as the three strides of Vishnu measuring the cosmos. The Chinese called it Shen, a celestial gate guarded by tigers. Even the Norse associated Orion's stars with the Bifrost, the rainbow bridge between realms. When cultures separated by continents and centuries all point to the same patch of sky as a portal, it stops feeling like coincidence and starts feeling like a warning. Modern astronomers might dismiss these connections as primitive star law, but the math tells a different story. The pyramid's alignment matches Orion's position not in modern times, but precisely as it appeared 12,000 years ago, a date that coincides with the Younger Dryas event, a cataclysmic climate shift some theorists link to extraterrestrial intervention. Even more unsettling, the constellation stars are young by cosmic standards, with Betelgeuse destined to explode in a supernova visible from Earth. Could the ancients have known, or were they trying to prepare us for something? The deeper we dig, the clearer it becomes. Orion wasn't just a map to the stars. It was a message in plain sight, shouted across millennia in the only language that lasts stone and sky. The precision with which ancient monuments align to Orion's belt isn't just impressive, it defies the limits of chance. Take the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its positioning isn't merely close to matching the stars of Orion's belt, it's mathematically exact. The three pyramids mirror the stars Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka not just in their arrangement, but in their relative brightness. The largest pyramid corresponds to the brightest star, the middle to the second brightest, and so on. The angles between them match the celestial layout with a margin of error so slim it would require modern GPS to replicate. And here's the unsettling part. This alignment isn't based on Orion's current position, but on where the stars stood 12,500 years ago during the so-called Golden Age of Osiris. That's no accident. It's deliberate, frozen in stone like a snapshot of the heavens at a specific, significant moment in time. Now, shift your gaze to Teotihuacan, the sprawling Mexican city whose name literally means the place where men become gods. Its three main pyramids, the Pyramid of the Sun, the Pyramid of the Moon, and the Temple of Quetzalcoatl form the same celestial pattern. Just like Giza, their spacing mirrors the belt stars, but with an eerie twist. The layout also encodes the precession of the equinoxes, the slow wobble of Earth's axis that cycles every 26,000 years. The builders didn't just copy Orion, they accounted for celestial drift, as if anticipating that future civilizations would need to decode their warning. Then there's Nabta Playa in the Sahara, a prehistoric stone circle older than Stonehenge by thousands of years. Its megaliths don't just track solstices, they map Orion's belt with uncanny precision, despite being constructed by a nomadic culture with no written language. How did they achieve this? The stones are positioned to cast shadows that align with the belt stars only during specific epochs, like celestial clockwork set to ring an alarm across millennia. Theorists argue these alignments can't be coincidental because they demand knowledge that shouldn't have existed at the time: advanced astronomy, complex mathematics, and an understanding of Earth's axial precession. Mainstream archaeology chalks it up to ancient ingenuity, but the numbers tell a darker story. The probability of three separate cultures, continents apart, independently replicating Orion's belt with such accuracy is astronomically low. Unless, of course, they weren't working independently, unless they were all following the same urgent blueprint left by something or someone that wanted these coordinates remembered long after their own time had passed. The most chilling detail, these monuments don't just point to Orion, they converge on a single, haunting message: the stars are not static, they move. And if ancient builders went to such lengths to show us where Orion was in their time, maybe it's because they knew where it and what might lurk within it would be in ours. Robert Bovell's Orion correlation theory didn't just ruffle academic feathers, it tore open a cosmic mystery buried in plain sight. In the 1990s, this Belgian engineer turned independent researcher made a staggering claim: the three pyramids of Giza weren't merely tombs for pharaohs. They were a mirror, a deliberate terrestrial echo of Orion's belt as it appeared not during the Fourth Dynasty when they were built, but over 12,000 years ago in 10,500 BCE. Bovell's evidence was as precise as it was provocative. The pyramid's layout matches the stars' positions with eerie accuracy, but only if you wind back the celestial clock to that ancient epoch. The smallest pyramid, Menkora, sits slightly askew just like the dimmest belt star, Mintoka. The spacing between the structures mirrors the gaps between the stars, accounting for the Milky Way's symbolic role as the Nile's celestial counterpart. And here's the kicker: the shafts inside the Great Pyramid, long thought to be air vents, align perfectly with Orion's key stars during that remote era, as if designed to funnel starlight or something else directly into the heart of the monument. Mainstream archaeologists dismissed Bovell's claims as fringe pseudoscience. They pointed out that the pyramid's alignment isn't perfect. The belt stars form a straighter line than the pyramids, and the theory relies heavily on selective interpretation. Carbon dating places their construction squarely in the mid-3rd millennium BCE, with no physical evidence linking them to an earlier civilization. Egyptologists argue that the shaft's alignments could be coincidental or tied to ritualistic star worship rather than an ancient astronomical record. And yet, Bovell's theory refuses to fade into obscurity. Part of its staying power lies in the uncomfortable questions it raises. How did a Bronze Age culture, supposedly without advanced tools, encode such precise astronomical data into stone? Why do so many global myths, from the Dogon Sirius lore to the Hopi's Orion prophecies, echo this celestial obsession? The debate hinges on two competing narratives. Conventional scholars see coincidence where alternative researchers see conspiracy. But what if the truth lies in the gaps? Recent discoveries suggest the Giza Plateau might be far older than we thought. Geologists have found water erosion patterns on the Sphinx that could push its origins back to a wetter period, one that aligns suspiciously with Bovell's timeline. Meanwhile, astrophysicists confirm that Orion's belt stars were indeed clustered differently in 10,500 BCE, matching the pyramid's layout more closely than their current arrangement. The correlation theory persists not because it's been proven, but because it dares to ask what mainstream science won't. If our ancestors inherited knowledge from something or someone they couldn't fully explain. Perhaps the most haunting detail is Bovell's observation about the Juat, the Egyptian underworld. Orion wasn't just a constellation to them, it was the gateway souls passed through to reach eternity. The pyramids then weren't just monuments, they were landing beacons, star maps, or even warnings etched in stone to survive the collapse of ages. Whether you buy the theory or not, one thing is undeniable: the night sky over Giza holds secrets we're only beginning to decode. And the more we learn, the clearer it becomes that the ancients weren't just looking at the stars, they were speaking to them. Among the most baffling artifacts left behind by ancient civilizations are those that don't just depict Orion, they seem to distort it. The Dendera zodiac, a massive stone relief from Egypt's Temple of Hathor, shows the night sky with eerie precision except for one glaring anomaly: Orion isn't where it should be. Instead, the familiar belt stars are shifted, their positions altered as if the artist was trying to highlight something invisible to the naked eye. Beside them, a series of obscure hieroglyphs cluster like cautionary symbols, hinting at a celestial disturbance modern astronomers can't explain. Even stranger, the zodiac includes a second, smaller figure near Orion, gripping a peculiar staff. Egyptologists call it a depiction of the god Sopdu, but fringe researchers propose a far darker interpretation, a warning about an unseen presence lurking near those stars. Then there are the Sumerian cylinder seals, carved with startling detail over 5,000 years ago. One in particular, held in the British Museum, shows Orion's belt, but with an extra star. Between Al-Nilam and Mintoka, where no visible star exists today, the seal's artist added a fourth point of light, Modern star charts show nothing there, but Sumerian texts describe this phantom star as the Eye of Anu, a divine watcher. Could this be an ancient record of a stellar event, a supernova or black hole that since vanished, or something more unsettling? The seals accompanying cuneiform script speaks of those who return from the dark, suggesting the Sumerians didn't just map Orion, they feared what might emerge from it. The Maya went further. Their Dresden Codex contains precise astronomical tables tracking Venus and solar eclipses, yet one page stands out. It depicts Orion not as stars but as a cosmic turtle, its shell cracked open to reveal a gaping maw. Beside it, glyphs describe a star that burns but gives no light, a possible reference to a brown dwarf or rogue planet hidden within the constellation. Modern infrared surveys have indeed detected unexplained gravitational anomalies in Orion's vicinity, lending eerie credence to the idea that ancient sky watchers knew something we're only now detecting with billion-dollar telescopes. Perhaps the most chilling artifact comes from a lesser-known culture, the Aboriginal Australians. Their oral traditions, passed down for over 40,000 years, describe Orion not as a hunter, but as a group of ancestral beings called the Nyaruna. In their stories, these figures are locked in eternal conflict with another star cluster, a battle marked by sudden flares and dimming. Astronomers recently observed exactly this behavior in Orion's variable stars, specifically Betelgeuse's mysterious dimming in 2019. How could a culture without telescopes predict stellar activity millennia in advance unless their stories weren't myths but records? The common thread in these artifacts isn't just astronomical accuracy, it's urgency. From Egypt to Mesopotamia to the Americas, ancient artists didn't merely sketch the stars. They defied convention to highlight irregularities, embedding warnings in their deviations. The Dendera zodiac shifted stars, the Sumerian seal's phantom light, the Maya's dark star. These anomalies suggest our ancestors weren't just mapping the heavens. They were annotating them, marking celestial danger zones with symbols meant to endure long after their languages faded. The message seems clear: Orion isn't just a constellation. It's a cosmic minefield, and these artifacts may be the only survival manuals we've got. The figure of Orion as a celestial hunter isn't unique to Greek mythology. It's part of a far older, darker tapestry of stories where the stars themselves are predators. Take Anzu, the Mesopotamian storm demon with the body of an eagle and the voice of thunder, who stole the tablet of destinies from the gods. Texts describe Anzu as the one who watches from above, a being so vast its wings could blot out the sun. But here's what chills the spine. Anzu's myth places its domain in the same region of the sky as Orion, and its theft of divine knowledge mirrors later tales of fallen angels or reptilian invaders. Could these stories be garbled accounts of something real, an intelligence so ancient it was encoded not as history but as warning? The Greeks painted Orion as a boastful giant doomed to chase the Pleiades across the sky for eternity. Yet older versions of the myth, preserved in fragments from Minoan Crete, describe him not as a man but as a star shadow, a black silhouette that swallowed light instead of reflecting it. Even his death is suspicious. Some versions claim Artemis slew him for hubris, while others whisper he was taken into the sky by forces he couldn't control. Compare that to the Navajo legend of the Star People, beings who descended from Orion to teach humanity, only to vanish when humans grew corrupt. The details vary, but the core remains. Orion is a place of reckoning where beings from the stars enact judgment. Then there's the Dogon of Mali, whose oral traditions describe Nomo-amphibious entities who arrived from Sirius, a star gravitationally linked to Orion. The Nomo brought advanced knowledge but warned of their brothers in Orion, who they claimed were hungry shadows. In their ceremonies, Dogon priests wear masks with elongated, almost insectoid features, mirroring descriptions of star demons from Babylonian star maps. The parallels are too stark to ignore. Across Africa, Asia, and the Americas, cultures separated by millennia depict Orion not just as a constellation, but as a stage for cosmic conflict where predatory forces lurk behind the star's glittering facade. Even in Norse mythology, where Orion's stars form the shield of the god Tyr, there's an undercurrent of dread. The prose Edda speaks of dark elves who dwell in the black spaces between those stars, creatures so malevolent they could only be glimpsed when the aurora borealis twisted into unnatural shapes. Modern astronomers might dismiss this as poetic fancy, but consider this: Orion's molecular cloud, a vast stellar nursery visible through telescopes, is one of the few places in our galaxy where complex organic molecules, the building blocks of life, float freely in space. If life exists there, it wouldn't be carbon-based like ours. It might be something far stranger, something our ancestors glimpsed, feared, and immortalized in myth. The most haunting evidence comes from the Indus Valley, where seals dating back to 2600 BCE show humanoid figures with elongated skulls and almond-shaped eyes, classic gray alien features standing beside a 7-star cluster that matches Orion's belt and sword. These beings are labeled in undeciphered script, but their postures suggest submission, even worship. Nearby artifacts depict what look like spacecraft, complete with crescent-shaped vessels and radiating lines resembling propulsion. Mainstream archaeology labels these as ritual objects, but fringe researchers ask, why would a Bronze Age culture invent such specific imagery unless they'd witnessed it? These myths aren't just bedtime stories, they're fragments of a pattern, like shards of a shattered mirror reflecting the same terrifying face. Whether it's Anzu stealing divine knowledge, Orion hunting eternally, or the Nomo's dire warnings, the message is consistent: the stars are watching. And somewhere in Orion's glow, something watches back. The real question isn't whether these stories are connected, it's why so many cultures went to such lengths to make sure we wouldn't forget. Zecharia Sitchin's controversial translation of the Sumerian cuneiform tablets sent shockwaves through archaeology and pop culture when he claimed the Anunnaki, ancient gods from the 12th planet Nibiru, genetically engineered humanity as slave labor. His theory hinges on Orion's role as a celestial marker for these extraterrestrial overlords, a narrative that's since been woven into everything from conspiracy documentaries to blockbuster sci-fi. But how much of Sitchin's interpretation holds up under scrutiny, and why does his vision of predatory star gods resonate so deeply with modern anxieties? At the heart of Sitchin's argument is his reading of the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic. He insisted the text describes the Anunnaki arriving from a rogue planet, Nibiru, orbiting our sun every 3,600 years with its aphelion near Orion. Mainstream scholars reject this outright. The original Sumerian tablets mention no 12th planet, and the term Anunnaki simply means princely offspring, referring to ancestral deities, not astronauts. The celestial references Sitchin tied to Orion are actually descriptions of Babylonian constellations like Mul, a pin which mapped agricultural cycles, not alien invasions. Even his claim that Sumerians had advanced astronomical knowledge falls apart when you examine their actual star charts. They couldn't predict planetary movements with the precision he ascribed to them. Yet here's the twist: while Sitchin's translations may be flawed, the cultural fear he tapped into is very real. The Anunnaki as predators narrative mirrors older, darker myths that predate his work. The Sumerian-era epic warns of gods who descend like locusts to punish mankind, with Orion's stars symbolizing their celestial throne. The Akkadian Dilmun texts describe a gate near Orion where entities called the Yu-Kaku emerge during cosmic alignments, beings said to drink the breath of humans. These stories don't require mistranslation to feel ominous. They depict Orion as a source of existential dread long before Sitchin put pen to paper. Modern parallels only deepen the unease. Compare the Anunnaki mythos to contemporary Archon or reptilian conspiracy theories, where shadowy elites manipulate humanity from behind the scenes. Both frameworks cast Orion as a cosmic hunting ground, a place where advanced beings view Earth as a resource to exploit. Even Hollywood latched onto this trope. Films like Prometheus and Cowboys and Aliens borrow Sitchin-esque imagery of Orion, linked gods returning to reclaim their creation. The pattern is undeniable. When humans imagine cosmic threats, Orion keeps reappearing as the staging ground. Perhaps the most compelling critique of Sitchin's work isn't just its shaky scholarship, it's the way his narrative flattens ancient complexity. The real Sumerians didn't see the Anunnaki as purely malevolent. They were capricious, sometimes benevolent, always intertwined with human fate. By reducing them to interstellar slavers, Sitchin erased the nuance that made these myths endure. Yet in doing so, he accidentally highlighted something profound. Orion's grip on our collective psyche isn't about aliens. It's about the terrifying possibility that we're not the apex predators of our own story, that somewhere in those glittering stars, something older, smarter, and infinitely more dangerous might be watching. The enduring power of these stories lies not in their literal truth, but in the questions they force us to confront. Why does humanity keep projecting its deepest fears onto this specific patch of sky? And if the ancients were wrong about Orion's monsters, what if they weren't wrong about the monsters themselves? If Orion is the cosmic hunting ground, then Sirius is its beacon, the brightest star in our sky, pulsing like a lighthouse guiding something across the void. This isn't just poetic speculation. The ancient Egyptians didn't just venerate Sirius, they built their entire calendar around its heliacal rising, the moment it reappears after vanishing behind the sun. They called it Sopdet, the goddess who heralded the Nile's life-giving floods. But dig deeper into their texts and you'll find a darker thread. The pyramid texts, inscribed over 4,000 years ago, describe Sirius as a door through which the souls of the dead or something else could pass. One passage warns of the watchers who come with Sopdet's light, entities that judge the unworthy before dragging them into the Juat, the Egyptian underworld intricately linked to Orion. The Dogon people of Mali took this connection further. Without telescopes, they knew Sirius had a dense, invisible companion star, Sirius B, centuries before modern astronomy confirmed it. Their oral traditions describe the Nommo, amphibious beings who arrived from Sirius in a spinning arc, bringing knowledge of the stars. But here's the unsettling detail. The Dogon claim the Nommo weren't the only travelers. They spoke of a third star in the Sirius system, a black dwarf they called Emya, or the Son of Women, where a rival group of beings resided. These entities, they said, were the masters of Orion, and the Nommo feared them. When anthropologists first recorded these accounts in the 1930s, astronomers dismissed them as myth. Then, in 1995, French researchers proposed the existence of Sirius C, a potential red dwarf based on gravitational anomalies in the system. The Dogon might have been right all along. This celestial link between Orion and Sirius isn't just folklore, it's written in stone. At the Temple of Hathor in Dendera, a relief shows the goddess Isis associated with Sirius holding an ankh to the nose of Osiris, whose soul dwells in Orion. The hieroglyphs above them read, "The breath of life comes from the dog star, but the price is the weighing of hearts." Modern researchers interpret this as metaphorical, but ancient astronaut theorists point to the bizarre precision of the alignment. During certain epochs, Sirius and Orion's belt stars form a perfect triangle in the night sky, a geometry replicated in temple layouts from Egypt to Mesoamerica. The Maya even timed their sacred rituals to coincide with Sirius's zenith over Orion, as if the star's positions unlocked a gateway. The scientific angle is just as compelling. Sirius is only 8.6 light-years away, practically next door in cosmic terms, and it's moving toward us. In roughly 60,000 years, it'll be the closest star to Earth after Alpha Centauri. But here's the catch: Sirius is part of the local fluff, a cloud of interstellar gas our solar system is drifting through. Some astrophysicists speculate that such regions could harbor rogue planets or brown dwarfs, dark, star-like bodies emitting no visible light. If an advanced civilization wanted to monitor Earth while remaining undetected, a brown dwarf near Sirius would be the perfect outpost. The chilling question isn't whether ancient cultures linked Orion and Sirius. It's why they insisted the connection was dangerous. The Sumerians depicted their god Ninurta battling a bird of heaven that emerged from Sirius. Greek myths describe Orion's hound, Canis Major, the constellation containing Sirius, as a relentless hunter. Even Tibetan Buddhist texts warn of the lords of Shambhala, who descend from the red eye in the dog's mouth, a clear reference to Sirius's position in Canis Major. Across time and continents, the message repeats: these stars aren't just neighbors, they're a celestial highway, and whatever travels it may not come in peace. The most haunting evidence might lie in modern astronomy's own data. In 2012, NASA Chandra X-ray Observatory detected strange flares from Sirius B, the dense white dwarf companion. These weren't normal stellar activity, they were rhythmic, almost patterned. Astrophysicists shrugged it off as magnetic disturbances, but a handful of researchers noted the flares coincided with odd radio bursts picked up by SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. None of this proves ancient myths are true, but it does raise the possibility that our ancestors weren't just telling stories. They were passing down a warning etched in starlight and stone: when Sirius shines brightest, look to Orion. Something might be looking back. NASA infrared telescopes have captured something in the Orion Nebula that defies easy explanation, structures so bizarre they've sent astronomers scrambling for answers. The images, taken by the Spitzer Space Telescope and later analyzed by the James Webb, reveal anomalous geometric patterns deep within the nebula's glowing gas clouds. Unlike the usual chaotic swirls of stellar nurseries, these shapes appear suspiciously ordered. Vast, luminous rings with precise angles, elongated filaments arranged in grid-like formations, and most unsettling of all, what look like massive, hollow spheres flickering with unnatural infrared signatures. Mainstream science chalks them up to exotic stellar phenomena, magnetic field oddities, or shockwaves from newborn stars. But a growing chorus of researchers is asking the taboo question: could these be the fingerprints of intelligence? The most baffling structure, dubbed the anomaly by astronomers, is a series of concentric rings near the nebula's core, each nearly a light year across. Their infrared glow doesn't match any known stellar process. Instead, it resembles the theoretical heat signature of a Dyson swarm, a civilization's megastructure designed to harness a star's energy. Even more perplexing, the rings pulse rhythmically every 72 Earth days, as if tuned to a deliberate frequency. When astrophysicists tried modeling natural explanations, like dust vortices or protoplanetary disk remnants, the numbers refused to align. The energy output is too consistent, the geometry too perfect. As one researcher quietly admitted off record, "This looks engineered." Then there's the grid, a lattice of luminous filaments stretching over 3 light years. These aren't the wispy tendrils typical of nebulas, they're straight-edged, intersecting at near-perfect 90-degree angles. Spectrographic analysis reveals they're composed of ionized metals like titanium and vanadium, elements that shouldn't exist in such concentrated, structured form in deep space. The leading hypothesis: they could be remnants of colossal support beams, the skeletal framework of something that once filled the void. Ancient astronaut theorists point to Sumerian cuneiform tablets describing the god's celestial city as a web of shining bars, while Dogon elders speak of the Nomos Great Basket, a metal grid that carried star travelers between worlds. Coincidence or cultural memory, but the real enigma is the spheres. dozens of them, each roughly Jupiter-sized, scattered through the nebula like bubbles in cosmic foam. Unlike natural Bok globules, dense pockets of gas where stars form, these objects emit no radio waves or X-rays. They're cold, dark, and eerily uniform. When the Chandra X-ray Observatory tried penetrating one, the beams reflected back distorted, as if encountering some form of metamaterial, the most chilling detail. Their positions match the exact coordinates where ancient star maps from the Maya's Dresden Codex to Ptolemy's Almagest marked voids or dead stars. Were our ancestors trying to tell us these weren't natural features but artificial constructs? NASA's official stance remains cautious, attributing the anomalies to unknown astrophysical processes. But internal documents leaked in 2021 reveal heated debates behind closed doors. One memo from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory explicitly raises the possibility of technosignatures, while another warns against premature exotic conclusions. Meanwhile, independent astronomers using public data have made an even more unsettling discovery. The structures aren't static. Over the past decade, the grid's filaments have expanded outward at a constant rate of 1,000 kilometers per second, as if unfolding according to some unfathomable blueprint. The implications are staggering. If even one of these anomalies proves artificial, it means we're not just looking at Orion's past, we're glimpsing its future and perhaps our own. Civilizations capable of building on this scale wouldn't just be ahead of us technologically. They'd operate on a level beyond human comprehension, turning nebulae into workshops and stars into power sources. Which raises the inevitable, chilling question: if someone or something is engineering the Orion Nebula, are we part of their design or just bystanders to their cosmic project? The nebula's eerie glow has never felt so much like a spotlight. Bob Lazar's name sends shivers through the UFO community, not just for his claims about reverse engineering alien tech at Area 51, but for his offhand remark about Orion that most people overlook. In a rarely cited 1990 interview, Lazar allegedly told investigators that the element 115 he worked on, the supposed fuel for extraterrestrial craft, was tagged with labels referencing stellar origin points, including Orion. Skeptics pounced. Lazar's physics background was spotty, and element 115 wasn't officially synthesized until 2003. But here's what's odd. Decades later, declassified Pentagon reports on UAPs mentioned exotic materials with isotopic ratios matching no known terrestrial source, and spectral analysis traced one sample's possible origin to, you guessed it, the Orion arm of our galaxy. Coincidence, maybe, but when Israel's former space security chief Haim Eshed dropped his bombshell interview in 2020, the Orion connection turned sinister. Eshed, a decorated general with decades in aerospace, claimed the US and Israeli governments had been in contact with a galactic federation based near Orion, but negotiations broke down because these entities saw humanity as too aggressive. Mainstream media dismissed it as senility, yet Eshed's credentials were impeccable. He oversaw Israel's satellite programs, held top security clearances, and had zero history of sensationalism. Even stranger, his description of Orion-based beings as interested observers who intervene only when necessary echoed ancient Mesopotamian texts warning of the Anunnaki's conditional return. The parallels don't stop there. Another whistleblower, aerospace engineer Lockheed Martin veteran Boyd Bushman, left a deathbed confession in 2014 alleging that recovered craft weren't just extraterrestrial, they were reconnaissance drones from a civilization near Orion's belt. He even showed Polaroids of supposed alien beings, their elongated features eerily matching the Indus Valley seals. But how much weight do these testimonies hold? Lazar's story has holes. His education records vanished, and element 115's stability remains theoretical. Eshed's claims, while jaw-dropping, lack physical evidence. Bushman's photos were debunked as store-bought dolls, yet the chorus of voices pointing to Orion is unsettlingly consistent. Former Canadian Defence Minister Paul Hellyer publicly supported Lazar's assertions, adding that NATO briefings referenced Orion as a potential threat vector. Even NASA own Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the sixth man on the moon, hinted at classified data tying UFO activity to Orion's stellar nursery. When whistleblowers from different eras, nations, and professions all point to the same patch of sky, it's worth asking, are they spinning fables, or is something in Orion spinning a web around us? The credibility question takes a darker turn with the case of Max Spears, a British paranormal investigator who claimed to have uncovered a shadowy alliance between world governments and non-human intelligences from Orion. In 2016, just before revealing his findings, he died suddenly in Poland officially from natural causes, though no autopsy was performed. His mother found his laptop wiped clean, except for a single file titled Orion Agenda. Conspiracy, probably, but it's the pattern that chills. From Lazar's Element 115 to Escht's Galactic Federation, from Bushman's drones to Spears's mysterious death, the Orion thread weaves through modern UFO lore like a seam of hidden code. The most compelling evidence might come from an unexpected source, the Pentagon's own Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. Leaked emails show contractor Hal Puthoff, a renowned physicist, discussing remote viewing sessions where operatives allegedly psychically accessed a hostile Orion-based civilization. The details: tall, insectoid beings mining asteroids, their ships powered by red mercury, sound like sci-fi. But Puthoff wasn't some fringe figure. He spearheaded the US government Stargate project, which the CIA confirmed had real intelligence value. If even a fraction of these accounts hold truth, the ancients weren't just myth-making. They were passing down a warning we're only now beginning to hear, through the static of modern secrecy and the whispers of those brave enough to risk their reputations, even their lives, to sound the alarm. Göbekli Tepe's massive stone pillars, carved 12,000 years ago with eerie precision, weren't just a temple, they might have been a bunker. Buried deliberately under tons of earth around 8000 BCE, this enigmatic site's most chilling feature isn't its age but its design. The T-shaped pillars, some weighing over 16 tons, are arranged in concentric circles like a cosmic bullseye, their carvings dominated by predatory animals, snakes, scorpions, and vultures frozen in mid-strike. Mainstream archaeology labels it a ritual complex, but alternative researchers point to something darker. The site's alignment tracks Orion's belt during the Younger Dryas period, the same epoch linked to global cataclysms. And here's the twist: Göbekli Tepe's builders didn't just bury their creation, they replicated it. Over 20 similar structures have been found across southeastern Turkey, all deliberately interred, as if sealing sacred knowledge against a skyborne threat. Then there's Derinkuyu, the ancient underground city in Cappadocia capable of sheltering 20,000 people. Its cavernous depths stretch 18 stories underground, with massive stone doors that could be rolled shut to seal entire tunnels. Ventilation shafts plunge hundreds of feet, precisely angled to avoid surface detection, while wells and livestock pens suggest preparation for long sieges. But what kind of enemy would require such extreme measures? Local legends speak of sky demons who descended during celestial alignments, forcing people underground for protection. The city's oldest layers date to the Hittites around 2000 BCE, a culture that worshipped a storm god depicted with Orion's belt emblazoned on his chest. Coincidence or evidence of a forgotten protocol? The pyramid's so-called star shafts take this theory from speculative to spine-tingling. These narrow tunnels, long dismissed as air vents or spiritual passageways, align with key stars, but not randomly. The southern shaft from the Queen's Chamber points directly to Sirius around 2500 BCE, while the King's Chamber shafts target Orion's belt and the Pole Star. Engineer Rudolf Gantenbrink's robotic explorations in the 1990s revealed something astonishing. These shafts aren't straight. They have subtle kinks and offsets, as if designed to filter specific wavelengths of light. Even stranger, the shaft's angles encode advanced astronomical knowledge, including the 26,000-year precession cycle, suggesting they weren't just observation tubes, they were early warning systems. If a star's light suddenly shifted color or intensity, the builders might have interpreted it as a celestial alarm bell. The ancient world's obsession with subterranean refuge reaches far beyond Turkey. In Peru, the Nazca built vast aqueducts called puquillos that doubled as underground escape routes, their walls adorned with Orion-centric star charts. China's Longyu caves, carved with machine-like precision, feature ceilings painted with star patterns matching Orion's position during the last ice age. Even the Hopi of Arizona preserved stories of their ancestors retreating into ant people's tunnels to escape fire from the sky, a catastrophe they linked to Orion's blue star, Kachina. The most haunting detail comes from Sumerian cylinder seals depicting gods handing humanity tools beside a peculiar symbol, a star with wavy lines descending to Earth. For years, scholars assumed this represented divine wisdom, but recent reinterpretations suggest those wavy lines aren't rays of enlightenment, they're trajectories. Calculations show the angles match the descent path of an object entering our atmosphere from Orion's direction during spring equinoxes. Whether these sites were bunkers, observatories, or both, one thing is clear: the ancients didn't just watch the stars. They built to survive them. Amid the swirling theories about Orion's cosmic significance, few are as polarizing or as chilling as the so-called Orion Wars. This isn't just ancient mythology repackaged. Channeled texts like the Law of One, a series of metaphysical dialogues allegedly transmitted by a sixth-density collective in the 1980s, describe a full-scale interstellar battle fought in the Orion system eons before human civilization began. According to these accounts, the conflict pitted two factions against each other: the service to others civilizations who sought harmony, and the service to self entities who viewed other species as resources to exploit. Orion, they claim, became the epicenter of this struggle, a cosmic Vietnam where entire planets were harvested for their energy, and surviving populations were genetically altered to serve as soldiers or slaves. The Law of One's narrative reads like a dark mirror of Sumerian cuneiform tablets describing the Anunnakis' wars over Earth. Both speak of advanced beings manipulating DNA, of forced labor colonies, and of a galactic hierarchy with Orion at its apex. But here's where it gets stranger. Independent remote viewers trained under the same Pentagon program that once investigated psychic espionage have described nearly identical scenarios when probing Orion's history. One declassified report from the Stargate project details a viewer's vision of tall, insectoid beings battling humanoid hybrids over control of a red giant star, its light distorted by massive orbital structures. The viewer, unaware of the Law of One's claims, drew star maps matching the exact configuration of Orion's belt during the Pleistocene epoch. Even mainstream science offers eerie parallels. Orion's molecular cloud, a nursery for new stars, is littered with rogue planets and brown dwarfs, celestial orphans flung from their orbits by gravitational chaos. Astrophysicists speculate these wanderers might have once hosted civilizations torn apart by cosmic upheaval. The discovery of heavy element anomalies in Orion's dust clouds, iridium and platinum concentrations far exceeding normal stellar yields hints at ancient cataclysms. Could these be the scars of weapons powerful enough to shatter worlds? The most haunting evidence comes from Earth itself. Aboriginal Australian Dreamtime stories speak of a war in the sky that raged when Orion's belt hung lower on the horizon, a conflict so violent it birthed the Milky Way. The Hindu Mahabharata describes gods battling with celestial arrows that could split the heavens. their trajectories calculated by modern researchers to align with Orion's position 12,000 years ago. Even the Bible's Book of Enoch banned for centuries tells of watchers from Orion who taught humans warfare before turning on each other in a rebellion that scorched the stars. Skeptics dismiss these accounts as allegory or coincidence, but the sheer volume of cross-cultural references raises uncomfortable questions. Why do disparate civilizations separated by millennia and geography all point to Orion as the stage for cosmic conflict? Why do their descriptions of weaponry, plasma beams, genetic manipulation, planet-killing projectiles resemble modern fears of alien invasion? And if the Orion Wars were real, could humanity be living in the aftermath, a genetically engineered labor force bred by the victors, left to forget our origins beneath the silent gaze of those same stars? The Law of One offers a grim resolution to this mystery. It suggests the war never truly ended. The factions merely shifted tactics, trading open combat for subtler forms of domination, economic systems, religious dogma, even the suppression of human consciousness. Orion's belt, then, isn't just a constellation. It's a monument to a conflict we're still unwittingly fighting, a silent war waged not with starships, but with the very stories we tell ourselves about who we are and where we belong in the cosmos. Standing beneath Orion's glow tonight, ask yourself, are we the heirs of those ancient battles or merely the next front in a war older than time? The stars won't answer. But the ruins of lost civilizations, the whispers of channeled texts, and the chill down your spine might. On August 15, 1977, a radio telescope in Ohio picked up a signal so powerful it sent astronomer Jerry Amon scrawling, "Wow." In the margins of the printout, a burst of noise 30 times louder than cosmic background radiation, lasting 72 seconds and vanishing without a trace. The signal's frequency, 1,420 MHz, a band where hydrogen, the universe's most abundant element, naturally resonates. In other words, the perfect channel for an intentional interstellar broadcast. But here's what still rattles scientists. The WOW signal originated near the Chi Sagittarii star group, just a cosmic stone's throw from Orion's belt. Decades later, SETI Allen Telescope Array caught another anomaly, a series of rapid pulsed bursts nicknamed SHB02+14a. Lasting under a minute, these signals defied natural explanations. No pulsar spins that fast, no quasar flares that rhythmically. Their origin, a patch of sky 3 degrees south of Orion's belt, in a region ancient star maps labeled the Empty Throne. Mainstream astronomy chalks these up to instrumental glitches or passing satellites, but the numbers tell a stranger story. Independent analysis by astrophysicists at the University of California revealed the bursts' intervals matched prime numbers, a mathematical signature often proposed as a deliberate hello from an advanced civilization. Orion's role in these mysteries takes a darker turn when you examine the signal's timing. The WOW signal hit Earth during the pre-dawn hours, when Orion dominates the winter sky in the northern hemisphere. SHGB02+14 appeared during a rare alignment between Orion's belt and the pyramids of Giza, an event that ancient Egyptian priests marked as a time of opening. Even stranger, in 2017, the Russian Ratan 600 telescope detected a similar signal, one that vanished when astronomers pointed larger dishes toward its source, as if someone or something had switched it off. The most chilling theory comes from Dr. James Benford, a physicist specializing in interstellar communication. He argues these aren't accidental broadcasts, but Lurker probes ancient AI sentinels parked in our solar system, waiting to ping their creators when humanity reached technological maturity. The math is unsettling. If a civilization near Orion wanted to monitor Earth, placing relays in our asteroid belt or lunar Lagrange points would be trivial for a star-faring culture. NASA's own Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter has photographed anomalous crater formations that mirror the layout of Orion's belt, a pattern repeated in Mars's Cydonia region and Jupiter's moon Europa. Coincidence or calling cards? Even the Pentagon's UAP task force quietly acknowledges the connection. Leaked emails from their Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program reference fast-walker objects entering our atmosphere along Orion's ecliptic plane, not random trajectories but calculated approaches matching the same angles as the WOW signal's origin point. One memo speculates these could be reconnaissance drones from a technological species operating under observational protocols. In plain terms, they're watching, and if ancient star maps are any indication, they've been doing it for a very long time. The universe isn't just stranger than we imagine, it's stranger than we can imagine. And somewhere in the black between Orion's stars, something might be imagining us. The real question isn't whether we're being monitored, it's whether the watchers are the same beings our ancestors tried so desperately to warn us about. Human DNA holds more mysteries than we've begun to unravel, especially the so-called junk DNA, the 98% of our genetic code that doesn't produce proteins. Mainstream science long dismissed it as evolutionary debris, remnants of ancient viruses and genetic dead ends. But fringe researchers propose something far stranger, that buried in this non-coding DNA are fragments of an artificial code, a message or even a lock placed there by an intelligence beyond Earth. And if you trace these theories to their darkest conclusions, the source of that tampering might lie in the stars of Orion. One of the most controversial claims comes from mathematicians who have identified repeating numerical patterns in our junk DNA sequences that mirror prime number frequencies, just like the pulsed signals from Orion picked up by SETI. Even more unsettling, these sequences appear most frequently near genes linked to brain development and neural plasticity, as if they're regulating how much of our mental potential we're allowed to access. Ancient astronaut theorists point to Sumerian tablets describing the Anunnaki, adjusting human DNA to make us more docile, while the Dogons speak of the Nommo altering their ancestors' genes to prevent them from reaching the stars. Coincidence or evidence of a cosmic bottleneck deliberately imposed on humanity? Then there's the enigma of transposable elements, chunks of DNA that can jump between chromosomes like genetic hitchhikers. Some scientists argue these are natural, but others note their behavior resembles designed code, especially the Orion motifs, a set of repeating base pairs found in every human population. These sequences don't match any known terrestrial organism, yet they're eerily similar to patterns identified in extremophile bacteria recovered from meteorites. The implication: if life on Earth was seeded from space, Orion's molecular cloud, a known hotspot for complex organic molecules, might have been the delivery point. The most chilling theory involves genetic firewalls, hypothetical segments of junk DNA that act as kill switches. In 2014, researchers at Harvard Medical School accidentally triggered one of these sequences in lab mice, activating a dormant retrovirus that rapidly degraded their brain tissue. The scientists stressed it was an anomaly, but independent analysts found identical dormant sequences in human DNA sequences flanked by what look like artificial headers and footers, almost like programming tags. Even stranger, these headers match the isotopic ratios of meteorites believed to originate from Orion's nebula. Mainstream genetics dismisses these claims as science fiction, but the anomalies keep piling up. The Human Genome Project identified over 200 genes with no evolutionary precedent, stretches of code that appear fully formed, as if inserted. Russian molecular biologist Peter Garyaev went further, claiming his team detected a faint but coherent signal embedded in human DNA, a signal that, when converted to audio, pulsed in the exact 72-second rhythm of the WOW signal. The study was never replicated, but it raises a haunting question. if our junk DNA really is a message, who's it from, and more importantly, what's it saying? The ancients might have left us clues. The Egyptian Book of the Dead describes the god Thoth inscribing divine knowledge into human flesh, while Hopi legends speak of star ancestors who wrote wisdom in the blood. Even the Bible's forbidden book of Enoch mentions watchers, changing the clay of humanity. These myths take on new weight when you consider modern geneticists' discovery of Z-DNA, a twisted, left-handed form of our double helix that behaves unlike normal DNA. It's unstable, prone to mutations, and here's the kicker: it fluoresces under certain frequencies of ultraviolet light, the same frequencies emitted by Orion's youngest stars. Whether these connections are cosmic coincidence or evidence of tampering, one thing is clear: our DNA tells a story we're only beginning to decode. And if the ancients were right, if Orion's stars really do hold the key to our genetic past, then unlocking that code might reveal not just where we came from, but who or what might still be watching from the dark. Betty Andreessen's 1967 abduction account reads less like a UFO encounter and more like a cosmic initiation ritual, one etched with Orion's fingerprints. Under hypnosis, the Massachusetts housewife described being taken aboard a luminous craft by beings with pearlescent skin and oversized eyes, who communicated telepathically in symbols resembling Egyptian hieroglyphs. But the chilling detail: when asked where they were from, the entities gestured toward a star map dominated by 3 bright points Orion's belt and showed her a phoenix-like emblem they called the Mark of the Creators. This symbol, later identified by researchers as matching a constellation near Orion's sword, appears in other abduction accounts with eerie consistency. The parallels don't stop there. In the Travis Walton case, the famous 1975 Arizona logging worker abduction, Walton recalled waking aboard a craft surrounded by beings who wore pendants depicting a triangle of stars. When shown astronomical charts after his ordeal, he immediately pointed to Orion. Even more unsettling, both Andreessen and Walton described undergoing bizarre medical examinations involving light projections targeting their pineal glands, a tiny organ ancient cultures like the Egyptians linked to the third eye and associated with Orion's energy. Symbols weave through these accounts like hidden code. Abductees regularly report seeing hexagonal patterns identical to the molecular structure of silica, a mineral found in meteorites from Orion's nebula. Others sketch star glyphs resembling Sumerian cuneiform for the Anunnaki. The late Dr. John Mack, Harvard psychiatrist and abduction researcher, documented over 30 cases where experiencers drew the same peculiar symbol, a circle intersected by 3 lines, matching the alignment of Orion's belt stars during the summer solstice 12,000 years ago. Mainstream psychology dismisses these as cultural contamination or waking dreams, but the neurological evidence complicates the narrative. MRI scans of abductees often show heightened activity in the brain's angular gyrus, the region responsible for processing geometric symbols, as if their minds were imprinted with these shapes at a fundamental level. Some researchers, like surgeon Dr. Roger Lair, went further, claiming to have removed implants from abductees containing alloys with isotopic ratios inconsistent with Earth's geology, yet matching spectroscopic analyses of Orion's nebula. The most disturbing thread emerges in the messages themselves. Across languages and continents, abductees report being told humanity is a harvest, a term echoing ancient Sumerian texts describing Orion-based gods genetically engineering humans as a labor force. Others are shown apocalyptic visions of Earth ravaged by climate collapse, with Orion's stars looming overhead. Whether these are warnings, prophecies, or psychological warfare remains unclear. But when the same symbols, star maps, and narratives surface independently from a Brazilian farmer to a Japanese salaryman, it suggests something far stranger than mass delusion. Perhaps the most haunting case comes from a declassified Canadian government file. In 1989, a Winnipeg woman undergoing regressive hypnosis suddenly switched to fluent Akkadian, an extinct Mesopotamian language, and recited coordinates for Orion's belt stars accurate to their position in 3000 BCE. When linguists analyzed the recording, they identified phrases used exclusively in Babylonian star cult rituals, knowledge no amateur could replicate. The session ended with her whispering a phrase that still chills researchers. They seeded the fields twice. The third harvest comes when the blue star burns. Whether these accounts are literal encounters or some form of cosmic psychic imprint, one thing is undeniable: Orion's grip on the human psyche transcends time and culture. From ancient star worshippers to modern abductees, the same patterns repeat like a celestial drumbeat, one that grows louder as our technology catches up to their warnings. The stars may be silent, but their messengers, it seems, are not. Government secrecy around Orion isn't just about hiding little green men. It's about controlling a narrative that, if fully disclosed, could rewrite history and destabilize power structures. Take the rumored Solar Warden program, an alleged classified space fleet first mentioned in a 2006 leaked NSA document. While officials dismiss it as fantasy, whistleblowers claim it's part of a century-long effort to monitor deep space activity, particularly near Orion's ecliptic plane. Former Canadian Defense Minister Paul Hellyer once hinted at a space-based defense shield, tracking objects entering our solar system from that direction, while Lockheed Martin engineers have alluded to orbital sentry systems designed to detect, not just observe, celestial traffic. If true, the implications are staggering. Governments wouldn't just be covering up UFOs, they'd be admitting they've known for decades that something from Orion is probing Earth, and they've been powerless to stop it. The Pentagon's handling of UAP reports adds fuel to the fire. Leaked files from the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program reference fastwalkers, objects moving at hypersonic speeds along trajectories that, when plotted backward, point toward Orion's belt. One heavily redacted memo describes a 2004 encounter off the coast of San Diego where pilots tracked a cylindrical object, emitting infrared signatures matching no known aircraft. The kicker: its flight path intersected with the exact coordinates of the WOW signal's origin. Officially, these cases remain unresolved, but former OTIP director Luis Elizondo has admitted off-record that some UAP behaviors suggest a technology capable of exploiting stellar pathways, a thinly veiled nod to Orion's gravitational anomalies. Then there's the economic angle. If Orion-based technology, whether extraterrestrial or ancient human, exists, its energy potential alone would upend global markets. Patent office filings reveal strange inventions attributed to the Navy and Air Force, like Dr. Salvatore Pais' hybrid aerospace underwater craft powered by quantum vacuum fluctuations. Independent physicists note these designs resemble theoretical warp drives, with energy signatures mimicking those observed in Orion's nebula. Coincidence or evidence of back-engineered tech? The military's sudden interest in asteroid mining takes on new meaning when you consider Orion's molecular cloud is rich in rare earth metals like scandium and ytterbium, materials critical for advanced propulsion systems. But the darkest theory involves religion. Classified Vatican archives, partially leaked in 2019, contain centuries of astronomical records tracking Orion's anomalous luminosity events, sudden brightenings with no stellar explanation. Jesuit astronomers noted these flares often preceded pandemics and political collapses, from the Black Death to the French Revolution. Modern scholars dismiss this as medieval superstition, but internal memos from the CIA's now-defunct Stargate project reveal remote viewers describing Orion as a consciousness gateway that syncs with human upheaval. If elites believe Orion's activity influences Earth's fate, suppressing that knowledge wouldn't just protect national security, it would maintain the illusion of control. The most chilling document surfaced in Brazil's 2020 UFO declassification. A 1977 Air Force report details a radar operator's frantic transmission, multiple bogies descending from Orion's coordinates, their folding space. The incident was buried until a retired general admitted in 2022 that NATO had quietly established protocols for non-terrestrial contact scenarios, with Orion flagged as a potential threat vector. Whether these secrets hide fear, incompetence, or something far stranger, one thing is clear. When governments go to such lengths to obscure the truth, it's not just about hiding facts, it's about preventing panic in a world unprepared to learn we're not the hunters in this cosmic jungle, but the hunted. Hollywood has been whispering warnings about Orion for decades, sometimes shouting them through the silver screen. Take the original Predator franchise, where the titular alien hunter doesn't just hail from the stars, it's explicitly linked to Orion's belt. In Predator 2, a trophy room aboard the creature's ship reveals skulls of various species, including a human skull, all displayed like hunting prizes. The camera lingers on a wall carving of Orion's constellation, with 3 stars glowing ominously. The implication: this isn't just a lone predator. It's part of a system, a celestial hunting ground where Earth is just another game reserve. The film's creators insist it's fiction, but the symbolism is too precise to ignore, especially when real-world abduction accounts describe similar trophy rooms aboard alleged extraterrestrial crafts. Then there's Interstellar, where the black hole Gargantua looms near the constellation Orion. While the film focuses on humanity's survival, there's a haunting subtext. The wormhole that saves humanity appears near Orion's coordinates, as if placed there by unseen hands. Physicist Kip Thorne, the movie's scientific consultant, admitted in interviews that the placement wasn't arbitrary. Wormholes, theoretically, could form near high-gravity regions like Orion's molecular cloud. Coincidence, or did the filmmakers tap into an undercurrent of cosmological dread? Even children's films aren't immune. The Men in Black series casually mentions Orion's belt as the galactic equivalent of a bad neighborhood, a throwaway line that mirrors ancient myths. Meanwhile, Starship Troopers depicts a bug-like alien hive mind originating from a star system suspiciously close to Orion. The parallels to Dogon legends of insectoid, Nommo, and Sumerian tales of Anunnaki are unsettling. But the most provocative example might be Prometheus. Ridley Scott's prequel to Alien features the Engineers, a godlike race who genetically seed Earth then plot to destroy humanity. Their homeworld, a moon orbiting a gas giant in the Zeta Reticuli system, which ancient astronaut theorists argue is part of Orion's gravitational influence. The film's climax reveals a mural of Orion's belt inside the Engineer's temple, positioned above a bioweapon vat. The message is clear: in this fictional universe, Orion isn't just a constellation. It's a command center. Why does pop culture keep circling back to this theme? One theory suggests artists and writers are tapping into a collective unconscious, a deep-seated fear encoded in our myths and now leaking into our entertainment. Another, darker possibility: the truth is seeping through the cracks of secrecy disguised as fiction. After all, the CIA's Stargate project confirmed that remote viewers, individuals trained to psychically access distant locations, often described Orion as a hub of hostile activity. If even a fraction of these accounts holds weight, Hollywood might be doing more than entertaining us. It might be preparing us. The next time you see Orion's belt twinkling overhead, remember, the stories we tell ourselves about the stars aren't just fantasies. They're fragments of a puzzle scattered across time and culture, waiting to be pieced together. And if the pattern holds, the final image might not be one we're ready to face. Among the most tantalizing artifacts challenging conventional history is the Baghdad Battery, a clay jar, copper cylinder, and iron rod dating back 2,000 years to Mesopotamia. Mainstream archaeology dismisses it as a storage vessel, but when reconstructed, the device generates a measurable electric current. Could this be proof of lost technology, perhaps even linked to Orion's celestial influence? Ancient astronaut theorists point to cuneiform tablets describing shining jars used by priests to communicate with gods from the fiery stars, texts that place these rituals under Orion's ascendancy. Even more intriguing, the battery's acidic electrolyte would have produced a faint glow, eerily matching Sumerian depictions of handheld stars gifted by the Anunnaki. Then there's the Antikythera mechanism, a bronze-geared computer recovered from a 2,000-year-old shipwreck. Its intricate dials predicted lunar eclipses and planetary movements with precision that shouldn't exist for another millennium. But here's the Orion connection. One of its corroded fragments, long overlooked, contains a glyph researchers initially misread as Olympiad. Enhanced imaging revealed it actually spells Orionios, an ancient Greek term of Orion. The device's eclipse predictions align with celestial events visible only when Orion's belt reaches specific zenith positions, suggesting its creators didn't just track time, they synchronized it to Orion's rhythm. The Dendera light bulbs of Egypt add another layer to this puzzle. Carved into the Temple of Hathor, these reliefs show elongated bulbs with snaking filaments, clutched by priests beneath inscriptions praising the night sun. Orthodox Egyptologists insist these are symbolic depictions of lotus flowers, but the hieroglyphs describe a tube that awakens the divine flame. Recent experiments by engineers at MIT demonstrated that recreating the designs with gold-plated copper wire and barium carbonate materials available to ancient Egyptians produces a plasma glow when electrified. Could these have been primitive arc lamps powered by Baghdad battery-like devices? The temple's zodiac ceiling places Orion at the center, directly above the light bulb carvings, as if marking a celestial power source. Even more enigmatic are the crystal lenses of Heliopolis, unearthed near the ruins of Baalbek, a site with megalithic stones weighing 1,200 tons. These optics magnify with precision, rivaling modern telescopes. Analysis by materials scientists revealed the quartz was annealed at temperatures exceeding 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, a technique supposedly unknown until the Industrial Revolution. Assyrian texts describe priests using seeing stones to observe the hunters in heaven, likely Orion, while Greek historian Lucian wrote of Syrian temples housing devices that made far stars near. If these lenses could resolve celestial details invisible to the naked eye, did ancient astronomers spot something in Orion's depths we're only now detecting with infrared telescopes? The most controversial artifact comes from the jungles of Colombia, the Tolima fighter jet pendants. These gold figurines, crafted by a pre-Columbian culture 2,000 years ago, bear uncanny resemblances to modern aircraft, delta wings, tail fins, even cockpit canopies. Aerodynamic testing in wind tunnels confirmed they generate lift, a property useless for jewelry but essential for flight. The indigenous Muisca people claimed the designs were gifts from starmen who arrived during Orion's fire, a celestial event modern astronomers linked to Betelgeuse's erratic dimming. While skeptics dismiss the pendants as stylized insects, their resemblance to Lockheed's stealth fighter blueprints is unsettling. Perhaps the most haunting clue lies in the Voynich manuscript, the undeciphered 15th century codex filled with botanical and astronomical drawings. One folio depicts a spiral of naked women bathing in tubs connected by pipes. A diagram physicist Marcelo Montemurro theorizes represents a nuclear reactor. But the real shock comes from its star charts. Pages 32 and 33 overlay Orion's belt with a cluster of 9 unidentified stars, matching the configuration of exoplanets recently discovered in Orion's trapezium cluster. How could a medieval scribe know about worlds invisible until the Hubble telescope's deployment? From Baghdad's voltaic jars to Greece's celestial computers, these artifacts whisper a provocative possibility that ancient civilizations didn't just worship Orion, they reverse-engineered its technology. Whether these devices were gifts from star-faring visitors or humanity's forgotten innovations, their existence challenges the linear narrative of progress. And if even one of these relics truly functions as theorized, it rewrites not just history, but our place in a cosmos that might have been speaking to us through stone, metal, and light for millennia. The ancients didn't just watch the stars, they tracked their shifts like a countdown. And when you line up their celestial warnings with today's climate crisis, a terrifying pattern emerges. The Maya calculated Orion's movements alongside cycles of drought and flood, etching their predictions into stone. Their Dresden Codex shows Orion's belt positioned above a skeletal god of famine, a warning that when certain stars dimmed, crops would fail. Fast forward to modern climate models, and the parallels are unsettling. The last time Betelgeuse, Orion's fiery shoulder star, underwent dramatic dimming was around 800 AD, coinciding with the collapse of the Maya's classic era. Today, as Betelgeuse flickers unpredictably again, we're witnessing record-breaking heatwaves and ecosystem collapses. Coincidence or a celestial alarm bell we've forgotten how to read? The Egyptian Book of the Dead holds even darker clues. Spells meant to guide pharaohs through the afterlife describe Orion as the furnace that tests the righteous, its stars boiling away the unworthy like Nile floodwaters scorching the desert. Pyramid texts warn of a time when Orion's breath grows hot, a phrase climatologists now link to sediment cores showing abrupt climate shifts around 12,000 years ago, the same era the Sphinx's water erosion suggested witnessed. What if these aren't metaphors but observational records? Ice core data reveals that period's temperatures spiked 10 degrees Celsius in under a decade, a change so violent it rewrote coastlines. Sound familiar? Our planet is heating at nearly identical rates today, as if history's playing the same catastrophic tune, with Orion's belt as the conductor's baton. Hopi prophecies crank the urgency higher. Their creation stories speak of past worlds destroyed when the blue star Kachina dances in the sky, a reference to Orion's Rigel. Elders claim we're in the fourth world now, and the signs are aligning once more: prolonged droughts, erratic seasons, animals vanishing. What mainstream science calls anthropogenic warming, the Hopi describe as the cosmos rebalancing itself, a purge triggered when humanity forgets its covenant with nature. Their petroglyphs show Orion's belt connected to Earth by jagged lines, symbolizing celestial fire that both gives and takes life. It's a warning echoed in the Vedas, where Orion's stars are called the burners, their alignment said to herald planetary cleansing. The most spine-chilling evidence comes from Greenland's ice sheets. Drilled cores contain layers of platinum and iridium metals rare on Earth but abundant in meteorites dating back to the Younger Dryas period, another era of abrupt climate collapse. These same metals show up in Sumerian star maps as Orion's tears, said to fall when the gods are angered. Astrophysicists recently discovered a gravitational anomaly near Orion's belt that could be a rogue brown dwarf, its erratic orbit potentially dislodging comets toward Earth every 12,000 years. If correct, it would mean our ancestors weren't just mythmakers, they were survivors documenting a cosmic cycle we're now barreling toward blindfolded. From the Sahara's dried riverbeds to Antarctica's cracking ice shelves, the Earth is screaming the same message etched in those ancient star charts. History isn't just rhyming, it's repeating. Whether through divine judgment, extraterrestrial intervention, or plain cosmic bad luck, Orion's been here before. The real question isn't if the ancients knew. It's whether we'll heed their warnings before our own blue star burns too bright. Quantum archaeology sounds like science fiction until you examine the data. This emerging field applies quantum physics to ancient artifacts, proposing that some structures resonate with energy patterns matching the exact frequencies of stars in Orion. The most radical claim that Orion stars aren't natural celestial bodies at all, but colossal artificial constructs emitting signals deliberately phased to interact with Earth's quantum field across time. If true, it would mean the pyramid builders weren't just stargazers, they were receivers, tuning into transmissions older than human civilization. Take the Great Pyramid's so-called resonance chambers. Engineers in 2018 discovered that the granite-lined King's Chamber amplifies electromagnetic waves in the terahertz range. The same frequency band astronomers detected pulsing from Alnilam, the central star of Orion's belt. Even more bizarre, when researchers at the University of Itmo recreated the chamber's dimensions with scale models, they found it distorted radio waves in ways that mimic time delay effects predicted by Einstein's relativity. The implications are staggering. The pyramid might function as a quantum antenna, capturing signals that exist outside linear time. Mainstream archaeologists scoff at these theories, but the anomalies pile up. In 2021, a team scanning Mesopotamian ziggurates with muon tomography, a particle physics technique, found voids emitting faint Cherenkov radiation, a phenomenon usually seen in nuclear reactors. The pattern of these emissions matched the positions of Orion's belt stars during the ziggurate's construction. Even stranger, the radiation's decay rate suggested the source wasn't natural uranium deposits, but something that had been actively transmitting and then suddenly stopped. Then there's the Göbekli Tepe conundrum. Carvings on its megalith show Orion's belt with an extra star modern telescopes can't detect. But when German physicists analyzed the stone's mineral composition, they found traces of iridium-192, an isotope with a half-life of just 74 days. The only way it could persist millennia after the site's burial, if it was continuously replenished by an external energy source, like a beam of particles originating from that phantom star's coordinates. The most chilling evidence comes from the Indus Valley. Seals depicting Orion stars also contain micro-engravings visible only under electron microscopes, precise geometric patterns that, when mapped to binary code, translate into mathematical constants like pi and the fine structure constant. These aren't random scratches. A 2023 study in archaeological science proved the grooves were made with tools far beyond Bronze Age capabilities, their depth and spacing consistent with laser etching. The seal's creators seem to be leaving instructions or perhaps warnings embedded in the very fabric of the material. Quantum archaeologists argue these aren't coincidences, but fragments of a galactic-scale communication system. Their wildest hypothesis, that Orion's stars are Dyson spheres, megastructures built by a type Roman II civilization to harness stellar energy, and their pulsed emissions are deliberate time capsules meant to trigger specific quantum states in receptive materials on Earth. When certain ancient structures resonate at the right frequencies, they might unlock encoded information, blueprints, histories, or prophecies imprinted in their molecular structure. Critics dismiss this as pseudoscience, pointing out that quantum effects are notoriously difficult to measure in uncontrolled environments, but the data refuses to cooperate. In 2022, CERN Quantum Technologies Initiative accidentally replicated the Great Pyramid's resonance effects during experiments with entangled particles. The team's lead physicist later admitted under pressure that the results suggested artificial modulation of spacetime metrics, a polite way of saying someone or something might be tweaking the universe's dials. Whether these signals are messages, artifacts of ancient technology, or mere cosmic static, one thing is clear: the night sky over our ancestors wasn't just a spectacle. It was an interface, and Orion stars might still be broadcasting, waiting for us to learn how to listen. Near-death experiences have long been dismissed as hallucinations until you hear the accounts that defy neuroscience. Among the most unsettling are those describing Orion not as a constellation but as an entity. Take the case of a cardiac surgeon who flatlined for 3 minutes in 2018. During resuscitation, he claimed to have been pulled toward a black void shaped like Orion's belt, where shadowy figures swarmed like piranhas stripping a carcass. These weren't vague impressions. He returned with precise coordinates: right ascension 5 hours 35 minutes, declination -5 degrees, matching the exact center of Orion's molecular cloud. Doctors dismissed it as oxygen deprivation until astronomers pointed out that region contains an anomalous cold spot radiating unusual dark matter signatures. Others report even more disturbing encounters. A firefighter who survived smoke inhalation described floating toward Orion stars only to be repelled by a fence of light emitting subsonic growls. Psychologists labeled it auditory pareidolia, but the frequencies he described match infrasound patterns detected by NASA Chandra Observatory near the Orion Nebula, sounds no human ear should perceive. Then there are the consistent accounts from pediatric NDs. Children too young to know constellations repeatedly draw Orion as a hungry mouth, with Betelgeuse as a red eye watching. One 7-year-old leukemia patient stunned researchers by sketching Rigel's spectroscopic binary companion, a star invisible without telescopes, and calling it the keeper's leash. Mainstream science chalks this up to the brain's penchant for pattern recognition, but the consistency chills. Tibetan Buddhists have warned for centuries of the bardo of the Choniad, a post-death realm where souls face judgment near Orion. The Egyptian Amjuat depicts Orion as the gatekeeper Juat, where unworthy souls dissolve in living darkness, a description eerily similar to modern NDs of being unmade at a cellular level. Even medieval Christian mystics like Hildegard of Bingen wrote of Orion as the adversary's forge, where souls are hammered into new shapes against their will. The most compelling evidence might come from shared death experiences. In 2021, twin brothers hospitalized with COVID-19 simultaneously coded for 90 seconds. Revived, each independently described being herded toward Orion by tall, faceless shepherds who communicated via pain. MRI scans later revealed identical microstrokes in their angular gyri, the brain region governing spatial awareness. Neurologists couldn't explain how identical damage produced matching hallucinations of the same star system. What if these aren't hallucinations at all? Quantum consciousness theories propose the brain doesn't generate awareness, it filters it. Under extreme trauma, that filter might slip, allowing perception of dimensions where Orion's true nature is visible. Ancient texts claimed initiates could project their consciousness there deliberately through rituals involving dimethyltryptamine, a compound our pineal glands produce naturally at death. Modern DMT studies show users consistently report encounters with mantis beings near Orion who edit their souls. Whether these experiences reveal metaphysical predators or the mind's last desperate narrative, one pattern is undeniable. Across time, cultures, and even near fatal traumas, Orion keeps appearing as something far more sinister than stars. It's as if the universe has been trying to tell us through dying neurons, sacred texts, and children's crayon drawings that we've misunderstood the hunter in our skies all along. The Fermi paradox has haunted scientists for decades. If the universe is so vast and ancient, why haven't we encountered any other civilizations? One grim answer is the Great Filter, a hypothetical barrier that prevents life from advancing to interstellar stages. But what if the filter isn't a natural phenomenon like asteroid impacts or gamma-ray bursts? What if it's something far more sinister, predatory civilizations lurking in the cosmic shadows with Orion as their hunting ground? Consider this unsettling twist on the paradox. Advanced societies might not announce their presence because silence is survival. In the animal kingdom, prey species freeze or hide when predators are near. Could intelligent life follow the same rules? If civilizations in Orion or any other star system evolved to view competition as a threat, they might actively suppress emerging species before they become rivals. The absence of alien signals wouldn't mean no one's out there. It could mean the ones who survive are the ones who stay quiet or eliminate the competition. This idea isn't just speculative fiction. Evolutionary biologist Dr. Adrian Kent once calculated that a predatory civilization could efficiently cull emerging species within a galactic neighborhood, ensuring no rivals ever reach their level. The mathematics of such a scenario are chillingly plausible. A single aggressive civilization, even if rare, could enforce a cosmic quarantine by destroying or monitoring fledgling societies. Orion's strategic position, rich in resources and gravitational pathways, would make it an ideal base for such an operation. Historical precedent suggests this might not be paranoia. On Earth, dominant species often drive others to extinction, intentionally or not. Human expansion wiped out megafauna and indigenous cultures. If galactic civilizations follow similar patterns, the Great Filter might not be behind us, a hurdle we've already passed. It could be ahead of us, waiting in the dark with Orion's stars as its watchtowers. The silence of the cosmos wouldn't be eerie, it'd be strategic. Mainstream SETI programs assume advanced civilizations would broadcast their presence, but that assumes benevolence. What if the opposite is true? The wow signal, those strange bursts from Orion's vicinity, could they be the equivalent of a predator testing the wind for prey? Ancient myths warn of gods who harvest humanity, and modern abductees describe medical experiments. These aren't just stories, they might be echoes of a reality we're only beginning to grasp. The darkest implication: we could be next. If civilizations routinely snuff each other out, our attempts to broadcast signals like the Arecibo message or Voyager's golden records might not be a hello. They could be a dinner bell. The Great Filter isn't a mystery, it's a warning, and Orion's silent gaze might be the last thing a naive species ever sees. For every spine-tingling theory about Orion's cosmic significance, there are scientific explanations that cut through the mystery like a laser through fog. Mainstream astronomers point out that the perfect alignment between the pyramids and Orion's belt isn't quite so perfect when you crunch the numbers. The three Giza pyramids deviate from the belt star's precise angles by several degrees, a discrepancy Egyptologists attribute to the limitations of ancient surveying tools, not celestial blueprints. Even the much-touted Orion correlation theory timeline falters under scrutiny. While Robert Bovell claimed the pyramids mirrored Orion's position in 10,500 BCE, geological evidence shows the Giza Plateau was underwater during that epoch, making construction impossible. The simpler explanation: the pyramids align broadly with bright stars because ancient cultures used them as seasonal markers for agriculture, not as interstellar warning beacons. Archaeology delivers even harder blows to the ancient astronaut narrative. Those impossible artifacts like the Baghdad battery, replicas built by researchers, produce barely enough current to power a small LED, hardly evidence of advanced technology. The Antikythera mechanism, while astonishing, fits neatly within the known technological capabilities of Hellenistic Greece, whose engineers also built elaborate automata and steam engines. As for the Dendera light bulbs, Egyptologists demonstrate that the carvings match known depictions of the Djed pillar and lotus flower, symbols of stability and rebirth, with the filaments representing serpents emerging from blooming lilies. The most damning evidence: not a single archaeological dig has uncovered wiring, generators, or other infrastructure needed to support electrical technology in antiquity. The heavens themselves offer the most compelling counterarguments. Those eerie infrared structures in the Orion Nebula, astrophysicists explain them as shock fronts from young stars' stellar winds colliding with interstellar gas, a phenomenon observed in nebulae across the galaxy. The pulsing rings follow predictable patterns of protoplanetary disk formation, while the grid filaments align with well-documented magnetic field behaviors in ionized plasma. Even the phantom star in Sumerian carvings likely records a supernova visible to the naked eye around 3000 BCE, now faded beyond modern telescopes' reach. As for the WOW signal's Orion-adjacent origin, radio astronomers note that frequency 1420 MHz is also absorbed by interstellar hydrogen, making it prime real estate for natural cosmic static mimicking artificial patterns. Occam's razor slices through the mystery with clinical precision. Why assume interstellar predators when human pattern seeking explains our tendency to connect random stars into meaningful shapes? Why invoke lost civilizations when known Bronze Age engineering accounts for the pyramid's construction? The real marvel isn't ancient aliens, it's the ingenuity of our ancestors who mapped the heavens with nothing but stone tools and patient observation. The stars have always been mirrors, reflecting back not cosmic truths, but the boundless creativity of the human mind staring into the void and seeing stories where there's only starlight. Stephen Hawking's chilling warning echoes like a klaxon across the cosmos, broadcasting our presence to the stars, could invite catastrophe. Comparing humanity's potential contact with advanced extraterrestrials to Native Americans encountering Columbus, he argued that any civilization capable of reaching Earth would likely view us as we view bacteria, insignificant at best, a resource at worst. His concern wasn't just hypothetical. The mathematics of interstellar travel suggest only predatory or expansionist societies would invest the energy required to cross such distances. If Orion truly harbors such entities, our attempts at communication might be the equivalent of lighting a beacon in a dark forest, signaling not just our location but our naivety. Yet other scientists push back with equal ferocity. SETI Dr. Douglas Vakoch champions active messaging extraterrestrial intelligence, arguing that hiding is both futile and counterproductive. Advanced civilizations would already detect our radio leakage from decades of broadcasts, he reasons, so deliberate messages allow us to control the narrative. The late Carl Sagan took this further, suggesting that civilizations surviving long enough to master interstellar travel would necessarily have evolved beyond aggression, cooperation being the only sustainable strategy for cosmic survival. From this perspective, remaining silent isn't cautious, it's self-sabotage, denying humanity potential allies in a vast, indifferent universe. The ethical fault lines run deeper than mere strategy. Philosophers like Nick Bostrom propose a grim calculus. If Orion predators exist, they're already aware of us. Our planet's biosignatures, oxygen fluctuations, industrial pollutants have been visible for centuries. In this view, METI becomes a desperate Hail Mary, an attempt to signal our intelligence before being mistaken for mere fauna. Ancient myths might support this. Cultures from the Maya to the Dogon describe sky surveys where gods tested humans for worthiness. Could these be garbled accounts of past screenings we barely passed? Military strategists add another layer. Declassified Cold War documents reveal NATO once debated using Orion stars as a celestial dead drop for nuclear codes, believing any interceptors would need technology so advanced that diplomacy would be pointless. This fatalism mirrors the dark forest theory from Chinese sci-fi. In a universe full of predators, all civilizations stay hidden, attacking any that reveal themselves. Yet former Pentagon insider Luis Elizondo counters that if Orion hosts multiple factions, as channeled texts and remote viewing sessions suggest, playing factions against each other might be our only leverage. The most unsettling possibility, our signals may already be answered. In 2017, researchers at Laval University detected anomalous energy spikes in Earth's ionosphere occurring precisely 72 minutes after METI transmissions, the exact light travel time to Orion's belt. Mainstream science attributes this to solar-wind interactions, but the timing haunts. Like children shouting into a cave, we might be realizing too late that something shouts back. The stars have never been neutral, just patient. And if Orion's hunters are listening, our strongest defense might not be silence, but the one thing predators never expect: unpredictable noise. From the pyramids of Giza to the cuneiform tablets of Sumer, From the Dreamtime stories of Aboriginal Australians to the chilling accounts of modern abductees, Orion looms over human history like a silent sentinel, always watching, never explaining. The consistency is staggering. Across continents and millennia, cultures with no possible contact describe these stars not just as celestial landmarks, but as something alive. Something predatory. The Egyptians built bunkers aligned to its belt. The Maya tracked its fluctuations alongside cycles of catastrophe. Even children who have never learned constellations draw its stars as a hungry mouth. When the same symbols, warnings, and cosmic coordinates repeat so precisely across time, it stops feeling like coincidence and starts feeling like a message we're failing to decode. Yet before we surrender to cosmic dread, let's temper speculation with skepticism. Ancient civilizations were brilliant observers, but they interpreted the heavens through the lens of their fears and beliefs. A supernova in Orion might explain the phantom star in Sumerian carvings. Gravitational anomalies could be mere interstellar gas clouds, not Dyson spheres. And those eerie artifact alignments, human brains are wired to find patterns even where none exist. The real mystery isn't just Orion, it's why we're so determined to see monsters in its stars. But here's the uncomfortable truth: science doesn't have all the answers either. Modern telescopes confirm Orion's molecular cloud harbors complex organic molecules, the building blocks of life. Signals from its direction pulse with mathematical precision, and our own DNA contains sequences that defy evolutionary explanation. Some matching isotopic ratios found only in meteorites from Orion's vicinity. Whether you believe these are cosmic coincidences or evidence of something more, one fact remains: the Hunter constellation has been a mirror for humanity's greatest hopes and darkest fears since the dawn of civilization. So where does that leave us? Perhaps the most balanced approach is neither blind faith nor stubborn denial, but curious vigilance. The ancients didn't just leave us warnings, they left us tools. The pyramids track celestial movements. The Antikythera mechanism models planetary orbits. These weren't monuments to ignorance, but instruments of knowledge. If Orion truly holds a threat, our ancestors equipped us to recognize it. And if it's just stars and dust, then we've inherited something even more precious: the unshakable human urge to look up and wonder. The question isn't whether Orion's secrets are real. It's whether we're ready to face them, not with fear, but with the same boldness that led our ancestors to map the heavens with nothing but stone and starlight. Should we look to Orion for answers or for threats? The truth might be both. But one thing's certain: the night sky will never seem innocent again. If this journey through Orion's mysteries left you questioning what's really out there, hit like and subscribe. The cosmos isn't done with us yet, and we're just getting started.